Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. I want to preface this video by saying I don't make these videos to be critical of Thailand, to be a gadfly, to just be critical of Thailand for critique's sake. I worry about the country I've come to call home, and I worry that she's being unduly influenced by foreign entities and organizations that have no good designs for Thailand. And we're seeing this more and more in certain aspects of the immigration apparatus, in my opinion, the tax apparatus, as well as now banking policies, which are having a tremendously, what's even the right word? It's causing tremendous, for lack of a better term, unease to the point of, I hesitate to say upheaval, but the expat community is roiling right now because of all of this. You need to be digitally face scanned to use your digital banking. They're putting a cap at 50,000 baht a month on doing banking. They're saying that people now have to do a digital face scan to have a SIM card, and they're they're freezing people's accounts until they come in and align their SIM card with their banking information. And even when they do that, it's then being closed again and shut back down. None of this is particularly good, I think, for the image of Thailand, and that's why I'm so concerned about it. I'm concerned because I love this country, and I want it to continue to be the free, great country it has always been, the country I fell in love with and wanted to live in the rest of my life, and I still do, by the way. I'm hoping that this, much like COVID, is a temporary aberration from the underlying notions of Thai liberty that I became accustomed to when I came here, and I'm hoping that maybe some changes, maybe sooner rather than later, could have an impact in a positive direction to turn some of this around. Because I gotta be honest, I think this could lead to some really, really bad outcomes for the country generally. For example, people could just start saying, look, I don't want to live here anymore. And retirees could start saying, this might not be the best place for me. People with their banking, when you start messing with people and banking and there's just a ton of hassle associated with banking, people with money start to say, yeah, you know what, maybe I don't want to mess with that anymore, and start looking other places. I've been critical of, what's his name, Andrew Henderson, the so-called nomad capitalist in the past, for his catchphrase of go where you're treated best, because I don't believe in that nomad mindset insofar as, it's like the world is a shopping mall and you should be hypercritical of every country until you get this like perfect Goldilocks just right. Different countries have different ups and downs. I look at countries for countries. That said, maybe I'm looking at it from the other side where it's go who doesn't treat you the worst, and at a certain point, if Thailand engages in a sort of a race to the bottom and taking care of expats, that could be very bad for all involved. And it could be really bad for the country overall. And I don't understand why we're undertaking policies which could drive money away at a time when we're in a very slow economic moment here. I hesitate to use the term recessionary. I don't necessarily think it applies. But you can look around on the streets of Thailand, or Bangkok, Thailand too. I've been out in the hinterland as well as, Pattaya, down to some of the other beach towns. Things are slow. Now we're in low season, but based on the world economics, the Chinese economy, the US economy, the Western Europe, UK, even Australia, New Zealand, things aren't just going along gangbusters at the moment. And on top of that, with some of the recent developments involving the border, etc., Thailand's, we're probably looking down the barrel of a high season that's probably not as optimal as we might otherwise want. And I think it's not being helped by a lot of these policies. That being said, and before I get into this email that I'm going to read from, I think it's worth noting that I get into this in deeper dives in our paid news service. I do these once a week where I do somewhere between a half hour and an hour of deeper dive, more detailed analysis where I sort of talk about all the ramifications of this stuff and how it pertains to expat land here in Thailand. If you're interested in that, please feel free to email us, media@integrity-legal.com. We can get you on the mailing list for that. Also, while I'm talking my book, my better half and I set up a restaurant here in downtown Bangkok. It is called Pancake Palace. It's breakfast anytime. It's American diner style food for folks who are interested in that. You can check us out. Links in the description below to find us at Pancake Palace, and we'd love to see you there. That said, let me jump into an email that I recently came across from a viewer. Imagine this, you've worked your whole life and finally reached retirement. You want adventure, and after watching all the YouTube and TikTok videos about Thailand, the safety, the infrastructure, you decide to take the leap and move here. You do everything right. You open a bank account with Bangkok Bank, honestly and transparently, providing all the required documents. You pay your bills like any resident, using QR scan to pay, and you're happy to contribute to the Thai economy. Then on May 30th, you're suddenly locked out of your account. You go to the nearest Bangkok Bank branch, bringing your passport and passbook just in case. After looking over your documents, the staff tells you they can't help. You have to go back to the original branch where you first opened the account. Fast forward to August 19th and it happens again. This time the app gives clearer instructions so you know immediately go to the opening branch. But by then your account is locked and you can't call a Bolt, withdraw cash from an ATM, or even order food. Thankfully, I had backup savings in cash because I've learned not to fully trust Bangkok Bank with my money. In the West, I have never once been locked out of my own bank account without explanation. Yet here, in a country I believed was safe, I feel like my assets are being seized until I can quote unquote prove I deserve access to them again. I'm not a scammer. I'm just an older man trying to live my best life in retirement. And after 6 hours of waiting at the branch, I was told I'd still have to wait another 7 days or longer before I could access my own money again. Look, this is a harrowing experience. I can't imagine what that's like to go through that, especially as a retiree sort of on their own here in Thailand. This cannot be good for the national interests of the country, insofar as it's not good for the national image of the country, okay? I often, people, you know, if you want to sort of know my politics in a way, if you can't tell, I'm what some would call libertarian. I'm, in an American context, I call myself a constitutionalist. I believe in what the founders founded the country on. In Thailand, I just want a strong, nationally sovereign country that believes in the fundamental notions of Thai liberty that I came to know in the time that I've been here. That's sort of what I believe in. That said, you know, I wasn't completely in line, for example, aligned in my beliefs with, for example, Barack Obama, you know, back when he got elected. And people asked me at the time, he was the first president that I was in no way living in the United States at the time he became president. So he was really a president through his whole 8 years. I was an expat. So people would talk about the things that were going on in the country that were a direct, and what they viewed were a direct byproduct of his policies. And I didn't really get it. You know, I didn't understand what it was like to live there under all of that. And so I just kind of moved along, kept my mouth shut. But one thing that I said about Obama that I still agree with was, as an observer out here, I was living in Korea and then eventually Thailand between the Bush and Obama sort of changeover. I was kind of in transition myself during that period. I noticed that the national brand of America improved when Obama became president for a variety of reasons, and I'm not going to go into it, but he just, you know, coming off the end of the Bush administration, you know, he came in, there was a lot of hope, as his sort of slogan implied. There was a lot of feelings of optimism about the future, but internationally, it was like a shot in the arm, if you will, to the brand of America. It just was. Brand America was improved by Barack Obama being president. And I took that into my calculation of how I thought of him as a president, even though I didn't agree with every little thing associated with his policies, because he did improve the overall brand of the country. It is important to maintain a nation's national brand. And what really truly worries me in seeing all of this talk of, you know, this crazy analysis regarding sort of certain tax issues, this really almost Orwellian, Kafkaesque protocols associated with banking we're seeing now. And then on top of that, we're seeing people in deep consternation regarding their visa status. All of this is leading to, in my opinion, a perfect brew, if you will, of bad outcomes for this country, not least of which is a diminishing of Thailand's brand. And that is the last thing I want, and I think that's the last thing Thais want to see. And hopefully we will see this turn around here in Thailand sooner rather than later.